Genesis chapter 11, verse 31. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abraham's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan, and they came unto Haran and dwelt there. It's amazing how much we got and how much we've taught from this one verse, but that's one of the exciting things about God's word. It's inexhaustible. You can study and preach for hours and days just on one verse. There's so much in it. And we're looking today at race stoppers. We saw that there are a lot more starters than finishers. And I want us today to look at why some people stop, why some people that started out as pioneers end up as settlers. And we have that in an example in Terah, who set out, but verse 31, he settled, it says, and he settled in, or he dwelt there in Haran. Now, Haran must have been a beautiful place because he names it after his brother. You remember Haran was the brother of Terah. And but here we see how a pioneer became a settler. No doubt he liked the place. He thought it doesn't get better than this, but it did. The promised land, Canaan, which God had said was better. But how many people settle for the good instead of the best in life? Now, I want to encourage you today to rise up and be the best, to do the best, to have the best, to be the best for God. And so we read that Terah, he settled there, and then in verse 32, just the next verse we read, and there he died. How tragic. A pioneer became a settler. So what are the main reasons that pioneers become settlers? I don't just want to give you information. I don't just want to give you facts. If you identify with any of these things, make a decision today that you're going to get up and you're going to get going again. Because many people started out, then they got hurt or got wounded or got disillusioned or gave up believing and became settlers. But God's called you to be a pioneer. So what are these things? Well, we look at it. Number one, laziness. So many people in life settle for mediocrity. In fact, the majority of people settle for mediocrity and end up doing as little as possible. Determine that you're going to chase your dreams. Did you get that? Determine that you are going to chase your dreams. Determine that you're going to make an impact by your going, giving, and praying and witnessing. Let me mention those four things again. You're going as where you can. Praying, your prayers can make an impact. Giving where you cannot go. Every one of us is called to go where we can and send others with the gospel where we can. And number four, you're witnessing. God, if you ask him to, will arrange divine appointments for you every day. Bring people across your path who you can share your faith with. Believe for someone every day that you can share your faith with. Get some copies of my book, Start a New Life Today, and hand one out every day to somebody. Ask God to who it should be, and it can transform your life. I remember one woman, after her husband died, she felt like giving up, and she attended one of my School of Evangelism courses, and she said afterwards that he'd given her a whole new purpose. Now she had a reason for living again. And you can make an impact by your going, your giving, your praying, and your witnessing. Determine that you are going to leave your mark on this planet before you go to heaven, so that when you go to be with the Lord, heaven, hell, and earth will all know that you passed through. And what is the key? Living to receive the crown. We looked together in our previous study at the 6 crowns that are available for the believer. Living in the light of eternity. Living all out for God. Though few may know you on earth, you can be one of heaven's heroes by living for God and giving for the things he's passionate about, which is souls. Isn't it an amazing thing? As I've said before, I believe in heaven we're going to know, not only we're going to know who shared the gospel with us, but who gave the finance to send that person to share the gospel with us. But when it comes to becoming a pioneer or a settler, how many who could have been rich didn't push themselves or got distracted, often got distracted by a relationship, especially young people, that instead of focusing on their studies, they get involved in a relationship. And it reminds me of the story of the Caribbean island of Saint Martin, or St. Martin, depending on which part of the island it is. It's an island that's divided, not in half because one part is larger than the other, but a part of the island is under the control of the French, and they speak French there. Je parle français un petit peu. And the other side is controlled by the Dutch, is Dutch territory, where the Netherlands, where they speak Dutch. And the story is told, I don't know whether it's true or not, but the story is told that a Dutchman and a Frenchman started off at the same starting point on the island, and one walked north and walked around the top of the island, and the other went south and walked around. And where the two of them met was where the dividing line from the starting point was. And so the purpose was to go as far as you can to get as much territory for your country as possible. And the story is told, I believe it was the Dutch who arranged for a pretty lady to be part of the route for the Frenchman, to delay him so that the Dutch could take more territory. I believe that was well. But anyway, the lesson is there for us. Don't let anything distract you from your purpose. And so laziness stops many people. In Europe, many of the European soccer teams, many of the players came from the African territories, or territories that were controlled by it. For example, on the French football team, there are many from places like French Guyana and places like that. Why is that? Because they spent their whole life as young people playing football. They weren't distracted. Distractions so often stop it. That's why so many European kids aren't playing professional soccer, aren't earning millions a week, because they were playing video games while their contemporaries in Africa were kicking balls around. You're not playing a computer game isn't going to make you a better soccer player. And so there were many of them. When they were kids, they said, oh, one day I'm going to be a professional soccer player. It was not that they didn't have the talent that they didn't become professional soccer players. It was they didn't have the commitment. If you're going to be successful, if you're going to be rich, you have to set out that you are going to be the best. You have to have a reason why people would buy from you instead of someone else. Your product has to be better or whatever than anyone else. I remember the story of in evangelism of the man who was selling shoe polish. And he said, oh, my shoe polish is more expensive than anyone else, but it's better than every other's. And a man in the audience said, excuse me, my shoe polish costs far less than yours do, and my shoes shine brighter than yours do. So the reality is you've got to shine, you've got to stand out, you've got to seek to be the best. And laziness is the first thing which stops people. The second is procrastination, putting off till tomorrow what you could do for today. And several of my friends have lived in Spain, and I've stayed with some friends there when I've been on vacations in the past. And whenever they call a workman to come and do something, they're told, mañana. Mañana means tomorrow. And so when you're trying to get something done, it's always tomorrow. I'll do it later. Well, procrastination is the reason many people don't get on and do things. How many say, I'll do it later? Did you know that up to 70% of the nation, I mentioned, die intestate without making a will? And that causes all kinds of problems for their children and their spouse if a person dies without making a will. You would assume that automatically your family would get it, but that isn't always the case. I know one friend who, for 2 years, their estate was tied up without their widow receiving a single cent because they hadn't made a will. And but the issue is, whether it's about business or anything else, don't put off until tomorrow what you could do today. The third area is betrayal. Many have been let down by others, especially let down by other believers. Many pastors have been betrayed by people they trusted. Friends, I've known the pain of betrayal. I've known the betrayal by people who call themselves Christians. But no, the first thing is, don't blame God. I don't blame God for bad things people do. I know that He's faithful. I know that He's as upset as I am, maybe even more so. I know that He will vindicate me. And so don't allow these things, the first three that we looked at, laziness, procrastination, or betrayal. Come to God and let Him heal your wounded heart, and then get back up again. The righteous man, though he's knocked down, he stands up again. And so get up and go for it. I'll share more with you in tomorrow's broadcast.